Rick Green here with today's Constitutional Minute. On December 29th, 2019, another deranged murderer walked into another house of worship, hoping to kill as many people as possible. But just 1.9 seconds after the murderer fired the first shot, he and his evil plan were literally stopped dead in his tracks by a citizen's perfectly executed, well-trained self-defense response. You know, countless lives were saved that morning. I think the world was given a very clear example of what is the only workable solution to stopping mass shootings. It's the arming and training of citizens that can respond immediately when evil appears. Now, I think there's several lessons to be learned here. The first one, of course, is a constitutional answer. This is exactly the constitutionally sound, biblically based solution for dealing with the evil acts of violence that are too often happening in our society, in our country, and in places that we would never think that it would happen. And this is why the American founding fathers put the Second Amendment into the Constitution. And I keep hearing all these, left-leaning politicians and actually some well-meaning, but I would argue naive people that keep saying, look, we just need to make it harder to get guns. That's what'll solve this problem. That response to me, the only thing that immediately comes to mind is that the response that if you just make guns harder to get, you'll stop the evil. That makes about as much sense as saying if that we can actually stop the 10,000 deaths a year from drunk drivers by making cars harder to get. It doesn't make sense. They're everywhere. Same thing with guns. It makes no logical sense, especially when you consider the fact that there are thousands of murders each year that are using something other than a firearm. So even if you could, which you can't, but even if you could get rid of all the weapons out there, all the firearms out there, you're still going to have murders. And then you've taken away the self-defense mechanism for most people. And I think this is actually the most important point here for the ladies out there especially, is that next time someone says to you, you can solve evil by getting rid of the weapon, would you just ask them to stop for a second and ask them how my 90-pound, gorgeous 19-year-old daughter is supposed to defend herself against some 6'5", 250-pound would-be rapist or murderer? Every time you make it more difficult for my daughter to carry her firearm wherever she goes, you are putting her at risk for assault. It's the same for other citizens. That's why any law that prevents an adult from carrying their weapon, that law should be ruled unconstitutional. The Second Amendment specifically guarantees your right to keep and bear arms. Carry that arm, actually have that weapon on you. You'd have to be a fool to think that the Founding Fathers of America actually intended this vital protection to only apply when you're walking from the bedroom to the kitchen. In other words, it's not just for your house. This fundamental law of nature, this fundamental right, should be with you wherever you go. Just think about all the shootings over the last few years at Walmart, at music festivals, other public places. The police cannot be everywhere all of the time. We need armed and trained citizens. Most importantly to you and your family, you need to be armed and trained. The very purpose of the law, the very purpose of the government, according to our Declaration of Independence, is to protect our rights. That's why it says that to secure these rights, remember life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, that to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. So we create government, we have government to protect our rights. When government and the law is used for the opposite, to actually disarm you, it's doing the very alternative of what it was intended to do. It's supposed to be protecting your rights, instead it's taking away your rights. All right, look, I've gone too far. We're past our minute for sure today, but if you want to dive deeper on this subject, be sure to get our Constitution class, host a Constitution class, maybe even be one of our Constitution coaches and bring that class into your community so you can learn more about the Constitution, not just the Second Amendment, but the entire Constitution and how to be a good citizen. But before I let you go, I said there's a lot of lessons we can learn here. There's obviously the constitutional right of self-protection lesson that we should be reminded of. But the second lesson I want to send you with today, because I think it's important for us to remember this. One of the most important things we can learn from today's story is that you don't stop this kind of evil. This man that walked into this house of worship hoping to kill as many people as he could. This was a wolf after the sheep. And he went into that Texas church hoping to do as much damage as possible, take as much life as he possibly could. You don't stop that kind of evil without planning and preparation. The good guy, Jack Wilson, the citizen with a gun, was 71 years old. And he ended the carnage with a 20-yard headshot. Friends, that takes training. It takes practice. Don't forget what I said at the beginning of today's Constitutional Minute. It was only 1.9 seconds from the bad guy's first shot to the good guy ending the fight. That is exactly what we train people to do in our constitutional defense courses. You need that kind of training. God forbid that this evil, this wolf, should ever walk into your church or into your home or the restaurant that you happen to be at with your family. But in that moment, you need to know that you've been trained, you're prepared, and you know what to do in that situation, and you can deal with it immediately. Whether you do that training with us or someone else, I beg you, get trained. Don't just carry a gun around without the proper training. We offer our training at 1/10 the typical market cost, and you get great fellowship. We're all on the same range. You get Constitution training. It's an incredible experience. But best of all, you will leave our trainings ready to carry your weapon with confidence, and you will be prepared to defend yourself and your family. So please visit patriotacademy.com today. Click on Constitutional Defense if you want to learn about how to get that kind of training. Click on Constitution Coaches if you'd like to bring some Constitution classes into your community. Do your part. Make sure you're prepared and ready to defend the Constitution and to defend yourself and your family. I'm Rick Green. This has been today's Constitutional Minute.